Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
This is a first for us, as this is the first time that we've had a friend on the channel that we've never met before, and also it's just me running solo. Johnny's currently at a new job, so he's flat out.
Nice, man. Hell yeah.
How are you at home at the moment?
I am at home with the moment. I'm sorry, my dog is being
Oh,
annoying
please
right now.
bring your
So
dog in. What type of dog you
if
got?
you hear him whining, it's just that he's needy and he doesn't like that I'm not paying attention to him.
I'm happy to
Um,
pay attention to your dog. What type of dog you got?
he's a mutt. We don't really know what he is. He's just sort of a weird little rescue that we got from yeah, he he's he was a stray in Mexico and we saved him and now he lives a really nice life and he does not know how good he has it. So he complains like he has the worst life in the world. But
Well, it's all a matter of
yeah.
perspective too.
Yeah, right.
How hard is that for
Uh
you when you go on the road? Like having, because I find this whenever I travel, I miss my dog so damn much. Is
yeah.
that the worst part of travel for you?
Yes and no. I mean, like to be fair, I mean, I do love my dogs very, very much. I have two dogs and they're a handful. So sometimes being on the road is like a nice getaway.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
it's an
oh, cool. I
escape.
don't have to worry about the dogs for a little while.
That's kind of good.
But no, I do miss them a lot when I'm gone. And yeah, it's one of the things that I miss the most. My girlfriend and my dogs. When I'm out on the road, I'm like, man, I really do want to be at home with them right now. So, yeah, but it's there's pros and cons to everything.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel like that's the same with anyone that has kids. Like a lot of my friends, I'm in that age group where a lot of my friends have just had kids, and they're all just
Yeah.
like they talk about their kids all the time and they love them so much, but they also look forward to having time without their kids so much.
Oh yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
flip side of the coin.
Yeah.
But
It's funny.
so you're at home right now in the lead up to the drop of Ruckus. What have you got left? Like
Yeah.
a week?
Yeah. I think we're like 10 days out. I think it comes out on the
Okay.
18th. Yeah.
Okay. You how are we feeling? It's been a long build up for this one.
So yeah, I mean, it's been such a long build up. I'm super excited. It's crazy that it's finally here, just because these songs have been, we've been sitting on them for so long, and to
Yeah.
us, they almost don't even feel like new songs anymore, just because we've just we've been hearing them for the last year and a half, and yeah, we're really excited to finally have the record be on its way out, and yeah, man, it should be really cool. I'm definitely interested to see how people feel about the rest of the songs on the record and the songs that they haven't heard yet. It's obviously it's been a pretty diverse rollout so far. We've had a lot
Yeah.
of our most
100%.
yeah, most sonically different things that we've put out so far, and it's been really cool, and seems like for the most part we've received some pretty good feedback on it. So yeah, I'm just excited to see what everybody else has to say about the rest of the record and the record as a whole, and then get to touring. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Where when we've shared stuff on our channels, we've done reactions to the first few singles you've dropped. It has been really overwhelmingly positive feedback. Like you guys have a pretty beloved fan base, and they
Yeah.
seem willing to just like, this is what they're doing now. We're about it. Which it's not as though you've changed your sound completely, but I think this is the most fun is the word I want to
Yeah,
use, but it is. It's a bit more like playful. Some of the stuff you've released here.
absolutely. I think playful and fun, youthful, are adjectives that I would absolutely think that describe the new record and how it vibes. And that was very much intentional.
Okay.
Like we've been doing the same thing as a band for 7 8 years now.
Yeah.
And obviously we started in a certain kind of pocket of the genre or the scene of music that we've kind of always been in. um and that very much was kind of revolving around like the super dark, like emo type shit, and really heavy, really depressing songwriting. And
Yeah.
I think there was a time and place for that, but as we've gotten older and as our lives have changed and as our tastes have changed, we've really come to enjoy uh just such a wide variety of different styles of music, and we've really enjoyed being able to challenge ourselves to write in styles that we've never written before, and kind of remove like that preconceived notion of what this band needs to be, and instead focus on what do we want to have fun doing right now? And that was
Yeah.
really like the whole goal to, behind writing Ruckus, was we just wanted to have fun with it and make songs that were interesting and different, and that we had fun with. And I think that we've really accomplished that. I think that, yeah, the energy and like the overall charisma of the record is very much aimed at being fun and energetic and youthful, and exciting.
The conscious effort to do that, I feel like it's not necessarily something that you're going to have to like try and write, because if you're in that mindset, that mood, and that's how you're just like expressing how you're feeling, because that's one thing that you guys are
Yeah.
known for is being very like authentic and true to yourselves and what you're going through. I feel like
Yeah.
that shows through the music. It doesn't seem like, oh, they're like faking being happy and playful. It's just like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
This is the vibe we're getting from them.
Absolutely. And that's a really important distinction to make, right? Like, um, I think a lot of people hear the kind of newer, happier vibe and think to themselves like, oh, like what is this? They're not being true to like their whatever, true themselves, and like where's the emotional content and stuff. And it's like, okay, being true to yourself doesn't mean like I'm gonna write songs about wanting to fucking kill myself all the time. Like if I don't feel that way anymore, I don't feel that way. And I think that I've made huge strides in my life and in my mental health journey, that like I no longer feel so depressed and so dark all the time, and like I
Yeah.
can finally write about being happy. And it's like, in my opinion, it would be way more disingenuous if I was sitting here being like, well, I really got to write songs about being depressed, so I got to make some shit up that I'm not really actually feeling,
Yeah,
just
fully.
because that's what people expect. Like that's so fake, you know what I mean? And obviously, like, these songs still have a really, really deep, personal meaning and overall message to them. It's just a message that is different than maybe the messages that we've had previously, or that
It's
the
also down
message
to how
that
you're
people are
communicating
expecting.
it, potentially. Like, I look at a song
Yeah.
like Failure, for example. Like, lyrically, that's quite a deep, heavy song, but it's presented in
Yeah.
a much more upbeat, playful, fun, energetic way.
100%. And I think that that's really important to talk about as well, is like, these songs, they're still dense, and they're still like, there's some fucking heavy songs on this record, lyrically and topically, there are some very, you know like, I don't know, dark things, but maybe it's less dark in the sense of like, depressing dark. And I think more so on this record, it's like there's a lot of anger. There's like,
Yeah.
for the first time, I'm expressing like feeling like just mad about like either the state of the world, or like mad at myself for certain things, or whatever it might be. So there's still those emotions in there, but yeah, they're being plated a little bit differently, and they're being presented a little bit differently. But at their core, this is still very much a Movements record with Movements songs. It's just, a different era of what Movements songs can be. And yeah, I think that's cool. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, hell yeah. How do you go about communicating that to the band? Obviously, you're writing the lyrics, and it can be a hard thing when you've got like the vocalist who does that sort of things. Seems to be like, this is what the band does now. Was that something that you guys had to sit down and talk about, or you address with them, being like, this is the direction I want to write? Or was it something that just kind of came with it? How did that work?
Yeah, honestly, it was super natural. Like it all happened really, really organically. There was no real definitive conversation where we said like, this is what we do now. It was very much an open kind of dialogue where we just said like, let's just write whatever we want to write, and see what happens. And um I do think at a certain point there was a conversation where somebody brought up like, oh, like, it seems like there's a lot of like kind of like more feel good songs on this record. Like, do we need to like think about maybe writing some songs that like do have more of like a, like emotional, whatever, like sad feeling, because that's what people are going to want. And I think I kind of told them exactly what I told you just now, which is like, that would feel,
Yeah.
if that wasn't truly how I felt, then that would be disingenuous of me to write that way. And so, yeah, it kind of just turned into a thing where we decided, like, let's not pander to anybody. Um, let's not go into this with any sort of expectation, and instead let's just write what comes naturally. And yeah, honestly, like I said, it was very organic, and it just sort of happened, and we were all really on board with it.
In the scope of like a live show too, if you've already got that content there that's like that darker, more somber content, I feel like having the new and old mixed together, it's actually going to flow better than being like, oh, there's just like the little fun bit of the, I mean, I shouldn't say fun, but like the upbeat part of the show, and then everything else is somber. Like it's going to have a bit more of a natural flow, like ebbs and
Yeah,
flows, rather than just being, we need to have that, but we've already done that before, but let's just add in there anyway. Do you know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah, no, that was a huge thing too. Going into writing this record instrumentally, we all were on the same page as far as like, we really wanted these new songs to have a lot of energy and to have, a great presence live. It
Yeah.
was the first time that we've ever really like had that be a major factor in the writing process. How are us sitting down and saying, like, how are these songs going to translate live?
Yeah.
Because
Cool.
with No Good Left to Give, although I love those songs, I think they all kind of stay within a similar realm as far as like how they vibe, and like there's not a whole lot of like dynamic,
Yeah. The
to them.
energy of them is pretty monotone.
Right,
Yeah.
it's consistent the whole time, which is great. But it's also like, when we started playing those songs in live settings, we kind of came to realize, like, oh, there's like a significant lull in the
Sure.
set, and we need to address that and account for that so that we can fix it, and so that
Yeah,
we
for
don't end up
sure.
having boring shows, because we love an energetic crowd. We love having a lot of interaction, and we love kids going crazy and having a good time. And so, yeah, that was a huge part of writing Ruckus, was just making sure that we thought about how these songs were going to translate live. And I think that every single song on the record is going to be fucking sick live.
Hell yeah. Isn't that interesting though? Like the albums that you'd listen to and you can listen to front to back and vibe with every song, but live it might not translate in the same way for you. You can like really sit down, appreciate it, but getting up and like moving to it is a different experience altogether.
Yeah,
I guess
totally.
as a band, as you grow, you can't really predict that until you've had a bit of experience under your belt of like, and this is what touring this album for 6, 8 months is like.
Right. Yeah. It's an important distinction to make, So yeah, we're excited, man. I think that playing these new songs is going to be, I think it's going to bring a lot to our live set that I'm really excited for.
Hell yeah. Are there any bands you've toured with that have sort of set the stage for you in terms of like, oh fuck, that's inspiring. That's what we want to get. That's how we want to come across. Is there anything there that you've been like, that really opened our eyes?
Um, that's a good question. Honestly, I don't know that it's something that I've really thought about until now. There are bands who I see perform, and I'm like, damn, like that is such an awesome reaction. Like I want that kind of reaction in a live
Yeah,
setting. I think Fiddlehead is a great example. Fiddlehead is one of those bands that, um, they have a really unique and interesting sound, and they're doing something really different, I think,
for
in
sure.
the scene right now. And every single time I see that band play, their shows are fucking popping off. And whether that be the fact that it's, hardcore adjacent, and that kind of
Energy of that.
energy is still there. But I think that that's, really an example of a band that's doing something really fucking cool. It's like, in many ways kind of chill, but also still has like good energy to it, and like their live setting is just fucking awesome. So yeah, I mean, I love shit like that. I think I also am starting to think about performing um on a grander scale, whereas before I kind of appreciated or wanted to be like almost like an anti frontman, where I wanted to speak very little, and I didn't want to like be too like cocky or whatever the fuck, or like, like, oh, get up, like type shit,
Yeah.
uh and then I kind of realized, like, oh, as you get bigger, that's kind of what you have to do.
You
You
need
have to
that.
be able
Yeah.
to control a crowd and to get a crowd like really fucking going, so I'm starting to find like my comfortability with all of that, and work my way towards being more of like a typical front man, and getting a crowd hyped up and really working them and that sort of thing. So yeah, man, it's interesting to watch these really big acts, like fucking Paramore and shit, who are just, they're so good at like controlling like a fucking huge crowd. It's
Yeah.
inspiring, and it's something that I definitely aim to be able to do in the future. So we'll see.
I watched footage the other day of Fall Out Boy. They're currently on like a huge tour in the States. And watching,
Yeah,
I don't know if you like, I grew up on Fall Out Boy, so that was a band that I've always loved. And
love
seeing
Fallout Boy.
Patrick Stump as a frontman that I think probably had the same maybe energy as you did to start with, is like he was a bit more like back, just did his thing and did it really well, but he wasn't at the front leading it. But now seeing the
Right.
footage of them in this iteration where he's just like, oh, he's a great frontman. He's got that energy, and I
Yeah.
feel like it's only improved their performances so much more, because you want that. You want to have someone that's like leading from the front.
Absolutely. It's so important, having like that um charisma, it's like that's what really sets artists apart, and being able to, like I said, work a crowd. It's a really, it's a very important talent to be able to master.
Yeah, for
So
sure. You
working
mentioned
towards it, man.
you mentioned before about sort of getting on top of your mental health. Is that something that's played into this as well, as like finding peace a bit more within yourself and being able to be that without
Yeah,
the
man,
self-judgment?
absolutely. I think that there was, I'm a chronically self-conscious person. I've battled with self-esteem issues for years, and with just not being confident or comfortable with myself or in my own skin, whatever it might be. um and that is something that I've had to really work past. And I do think that right now I'm at the I am probably the best I've ever been, as far as mental health is concerned. And I don't think that I've ever felt as good and as like okay as I do right now in this very moment. And I think that that's been pretty consistent for the last like year or so.
I'm stoked to hear that, man.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so I think that that's, affecting not just like my happiness and like the quality of my life, but also my confidence, and also being able to get on stage and perform really well without feeling that anxiety of like, well, what if people don't like me, or what if I'm not good enough, or what if they're looking at me and they think that it's stupid that we're doing, or is this cringe, whatever. Any of those like
Yeah,
anxieties that I might have had before. Although like there's always going to be like a little bit of doubt, like it's not crippling for me like it
that's
used
human
to
though. I
be.
don't think that's necessarily everyone gets that. Everyone's going to be like, oh, I'm now in front of 1,000 people. I need to do this. That's not like a
Yeah,
thing you just do.
yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's definitely been a learning curve, but yeah, I think that it's definitely something that I'm it's one of the things that's just like a trickle down effect, right? Like my mental health is in order, so now the other things in my life are also getting in order, and that's really really cool.
Hell yeah. Do you feel any pressure's not the word I want, but coming from, like you said, you've written albums and songs that have been focused on the darker side of things, and they were reflective of how you're feeling, and now you're moving into a more upbeat, positive, self-assured state. Do you feel any do you acknowledge that this might be something that people will follow on from? Like you're showing people it's okay to be okay, rather than being like in the past, maybe it's okay to not be okay, which it is, but like showing like, and I'm working on this on myself. And I think like encouraging other people to do that. Is that something that registers for you at all, that you might have that flow and effect to your audience?
Yeah, and I think that that's a huge thing. I think the kids who latched onto this band because they found solace in what we were saying, and the things that we were putting into our music. um I would hope that they see our growth as a band and my growth as a person, and in my writing and whatever, and I hope that they would see like, oh, there is a light at the end of that tunnel, like it's not dark and fucking shitty and depressing forever,
Yeah.
and sure, like once you've made it out of that tunnel, chances are there's another tunnel ahead of you at some point. We're always going to be going in and out of those things, but knowing that you can get there, that you can get to that light, that you can like be in a really, really dark place and eventually work your way out of it, I think it better equips you for being put back into those situations in the future, because we're all going to deal with it. We're all going to have to go through those things. So yeah, I mean, I would hope that people see this and see that growth and think to themselves like, okay, like there is more for me here, and like that is something that I now can work towards. And yeah, I think that's super cool and super important.
With the being in a band touring heavily, was that something that was a catalyst for your mental health? Did that help? Was it a hindrance? How did you go spending time, like obviously just like four dudes constantly together doing the tight cramped conditions nonstop? Was that something that was hard? And is that something that as you get ready to tour again, is there anything you do to prepare for that?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. Like as much as it's therapeutic and as much as it's you know I can't think of the word, but yeah, as much as it is an amazing positive experience going on tour and being able to do all that, it does get overwhelming, and it does get like draining, and emotionally and physically. Obviously, like it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think that there have definitely been times where touring has very much bettered my mental state. But on the same side of that argument, like there's been plenty of times where like I've been on tour and I have not been in a great mental state, and touring almost makes it worse.
Yeah.
So it just really depends, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I do this thing where I every time that there's a tour coming up, like for some reason I kind of dread it, and I don't even really know why. I think it's maybe just like the idea of knowing like, oh my gosh, this like really big thing is coming up, and like maybe it's anxiety of like, well, what if it doesn't go well, or what if I get sick and I can't play a show, or any of those things, like those anxieties that come up. And so I start to find myself dreading it, and then as soon as I get on the road and I play the first show, I'm like, oh my god, I'm having the time of my life.
Yeah.
And I remember like, that's right, I actually love this. Like this is why I do this, is because I fucking love it. So it's one of those weird things where sometimes you just don't feel super excited, and then other times you're like, yeah, no, this is great.
I think a lot of people would experience that too. Like when something's leading up, and like touring's obviously there's so many cogs and wheels that go together to make it happen. So it's not like it's just, oh, next week we're going on tour, let's go. You have 6 months of planning and preparation for those things.
Right.
So you've got so much time to think about it and potentially overwhelm yourself a bit. But then, as you said, once you're there, it's awesome. I don't think that's a necessarily unique experience. Everyone gets like that with things they're planning up for, because you put so much time and effort into something. What if it goes wrong? Rather than be like, but what if it goes right? Like, how good is that going to be?
Absolutely. And I think that 98% of the time it is like very much the latter.
Yeah.
It almost always has gone very, very well. And I end up realizing that there was never a need to be anxious about it in the first place.
I'm big on the kind of, if it goes right, amazing. If it goes wrong, it's a learning experience. Like you learn from everything there. I don't really love living in regret, because I feel like everything leads you to that next stage for some reason, whether it's a shitty experience or a good experience.
100%. I think that that's very much also kind of how we feel about this record. Like if this style change or whatever goes horribly wrong, okay, we tried it. At least we did it and we had fun doing it. And if it goes really well and people love it, then that's amazing. That's already, that's a win in itself. Like, so yeah, I feel you, man. Like we're just trying to fucking take it one day at a time and see what happens. You know,
Hell yeah.
we're already so much further in this than we ever thought that it would go, that anything from here on out is a win.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. You've had an experience that not many people ever get to have, and may as well try and enjoy it along the way.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
this is your third album with Fearless, correct?
Yeah.
This is the last of the contract with Fearless?
Correct, yeah.
Is there any thoughts of like what comes next after this, or you just like focused everything into like get this one done and then see what happens?
Yeah, we're just playing it by ear right now. We honestly don't know. Obviously, like, we've had kind of base level conversations about what future plans could look like, whether that be with Fearless or whether that be, you know, we see what other offers are out there, whether that means we go independent. You know, it's all things that we've really loosely talked about, but haven't really made any sort of official decision on.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I doubt that we'll make a decision on it anytime soon. I think what we're really hoping to do right now is just have a good time with putting this record out and going on tour and seeing where it takes us. You know,
That's it.
we're all under the we're all understanding of the fact that, like, there is no like rush to do anything. Like, there's
Yeah.
no finish line necessarily. It's just like whatever happens.
I feel from an outside perspective as well, where you guys have been and what you've done with Fearless so far seems to have worked really well, and they seem to have your back pretty hard,
Yeah.
which is really cool to see. I know some people get kind of jaded on the record experience after they've done a few records with a label, but so far so good with you guys. It seems to be really positive, and the feedback that, as I said, I've seen so far with all the singles you've had come out in the lead up to RUKUS seems overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been great. Fearless has treated us super well over the years, and you know, obviously we don't have anything to compare it to because they're the only record label
Yeah, of
we've ever been
course.
signed to. But I hear horror stories from, you know, friends in other bands or other artists who have terrible things to say about their record deals or their contracts, and I'm, you know, I feel very blessed that, like, we haven't had any negative issues like that in our time with Fearless. And so, yeah, man, I mean, we're super, super appreciative for everything that they've done for us. And yeah, it's been fucking great, man. I'm excited to see what comes next, you know?
Hell yeah. Now, you talked before about touring, upcoming tours. What are you excited about? Is there any bands you're touring with for the first time you're like excited to get on the road with? Is there anything that you
Man.
can talk about?
I don't know that I can say too much about what we've got going on next year yet. But there are some bands that we'll be touring with next year. Hopefully, I mean, it's in the works. I guess
Sure,
none of it
yeah.
is fully set in stone, but it's looking like it's going to happen. There are some bands that we'll be touring with next year that we've wanted to tour with for a very, very long time.
Cool.
And it just hasn't really necessarily worked out. Bands that I love, bands that have been very, very important to me and like my kind of like musical growth over the years. I don't know,
Yeah.
bands that I just really, really fuck with, and I'm super excited to tour with. But I probably shouldn't say anything quite yet. Just
I don't want to get you in
know,
trouble. Yeah, we'll keep it.
Yeah,
Keep it hush
exactly.
hush for
But
now.
yeah, we are really excited. There's some cool stuff that's going to be happening next year, and I mean this year too. We have a headliner coming up in just over a month now, or maybe it's just under a month that we leave. I'm not sure. But some really cool bands on that tour. Band from the East Coast called Mannequin Pussy is the direct support on that tour. They're fucking awesome. Really excited to tour with them. And then two opening bands. One is called Soft Cult, and the other is called why am I blanking on them right now? Heart to Gold.
Cool.
All really, really cool, fucking up and coming, sort of smaller indie rock sort of acts. And yeah, man, it's gonna be really cool. We always tour with bands that I'm excited to tour with. You know,
I love that.
we're never gonna take out a band just because they're gonna sell tickets or because they have hype or whatever. You know, we bring out bands that we genuinely listen to and that we genuinely fuck with, because
Cool.
we want to give them that platform, you know. So
You also want to enjoy the
yeah,
tour together. You don't want to have someone on there that you don't have anything in common with. You want to be able to like, okay,
yeah,
we get to hang out with these people for 3 weeks straight. That's a good experience.
yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that it's a solid group of folks.
So when you talked about your musical growth, your musical journey, were you like growing up? What did you listen to? What was your trajectory? For me, I started in like kind of alt rock because that's what my dad liked, and then I gradually like went
Sure.
into like the punk side of things and gradually got heavier over time. What about you? How did
Yeah,
that go for you?
yeah. I think I very much started, you know, growing up. I listened to whatever my parents were listening to, and my parents are pretty old. So they were listening to primarily like 60s rock and 60s, I guess, like pop hits or whatever. But yeah, a lot of oldies, a lot of kind of like that era, you know, Vietnam War era,
Yeah,
um,
Credence and
American. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So that was like hugely inspiring for me growing up, and I still love all that music to this day. I mean, Creedence Clearwater Revival is one of my favorite bands of all time.
cool.
So yeah, I mean, stuff like that was huge, but I think that it wasn't until I was probably 8 or 9 years old that I started, maybe even 10, but that I started kind of my own musical discovery, and that was very much due to the fact that I had an older cousin who was very much into like punk and stuff, and he introduced me to like Rancid and Good Charlotte and fucking like Sum 41, you know,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
stuff. That era of like pop, sort of, not pop, punk slash pop punk sort of stuff that was happening, and I was really into that, and so that's like all I listened to for a little while. And then through listening to bands like that, I would, yeah, it's sort of what you said, I slowly got into the heavier and heavier and heavier stuff, until by the time I was in high school, I was primarily listening to hardcore and going to hardcore shows, and that's very much like where I think like my musical expression sort of still lives,
Yeah,
is
okay.
very much, it's very much rooted in hardcore. um but yeah, man, I mean, I've listened to everything over the years, you know, whether it be fucking oldies, or, you know, my sister's really big into musical theater, so I'd listen to a lot of show tunes.
Oh yeah,
And
cool.
uh even, you know, more recently, my girlfriend did not listen to any of the music that I listened to until she met me, and so uh, I introduced her to a lot of stuff, but then she also introduced me to a lot of stuff, and now I listen to pop because of her. You know, I'm a huge fan of Justin Bieber and Harry Styles, you know, all that stuff. So it's crazy that my my tastes are kind of all over the
Dude, I'm
place,
with
but
you. It honestly sounds like I'm hearing like a weird echo of me. Like my older
yeah,
cousin got me into like Corn and Limp Bizkit, like the new metal
yeah,
stuff. And then I,
yeah,
from like, I don't know, the radio, whatever, like got into the more pop punky stuff. And I'm the same. I
right,
went and saw Harry Styles when he's out here, and I love some Taylor Swift, but I also really
yeah,
like death metal. So there's
exactly.
yeah, I think it's a cool way to be, like taking bits and pieces from everything and like bring it all in to let it shape you in your own unique way. That's a cool way of doing it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
One band, a dream band to tour, what would be like ultimate goal for you to tour with?
Fuck, that's a tough question to answer, because there's a few. Um,
You can have three if you really want.
yeah, I'll narrow it down to three. Uh, I think Paramore would be on the top of my list. I
Cool.
would absolutely love to tour with Paramore. Um, Second to Paramore, I would absolutely love to tour Jimmy Eat World.
Hell yeah.
That is
I could see you guys
one
fitting
of
real
my
well with them too.
Yeah, one of my favorite bands of all time. And then selfishly, this is, and because I know that it would never happen, but touring with Title Fight would be like genuinely like an 18-year-old me's dream come true. Like
Yeah,
that is
cool.
such an inspirational band for me, and yeah, being able to tour with them would be incredible. But yeah, Paramore, Jimmy, that would be like, I would be able to die happy, you know.
I could see that both of them happening pretty comfortably without a stretch like that. They're
I
within the
hope so.
wheelhouse.
I think that it's probably within our wheelhouse as well, but you know, never know. But we'll see what happens.
Favorite Jimmy song?
Dude, I don't know. Big Casino, maybe?
Oh, okay, later years.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, sick.
Yeah.
That's a. I mean, that got me out of left field. I didn't expect that. Most of like the people I know that have like Jimmy fans, real Jimmy fans, it's often off like Futures or Clarity. It's like that era, like a little bit older. But yeah, I
I
like that
know.
off Big Casino. That's a
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I have like a weird, I don't know. I feel like a lot of the times my like hot takes for bands that I really like are out of the ordinary. So
Sure.
like people sometimes will ask me like, oh, like what's are you, because I'm a big fan of Radiohead. And a lot of times people ask me like, oh, like what's your favorite Radiohead album? And everyone's always super caught off guard by the fact that my favorite Radiohead album is like their least popular record. It's called the King of Limbs.
Yeah, I know
And
King of Limbs.
yeah, and everybody's like, what the fuck? That is so weird that you like that record. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I love it. I think it's great.
Sometimes it just
And
hits you at the right time and it like resonates for
yeah,
a reason.
man. Yeah, there was something about just like that record that I really enjoyed. And then it's the same thing for like Jimmy, Chase Light was one of those records. I was just like, I don't know, just stuck with me.
Yeah, hell yeah. Chase This Light for
Yeah.
me was my very first foray into anything that was like exclusive. I was actually at a Good Charlotte exclusive like industry show. I didn't work in the music space at all. I got invited as like a plus one, and then they were on the same record. And so when we left, they gave us like an advanced copy of Chase This Light. And so I
Sick.
had that album. That was the first time I'd ever been like, I've got something that no one else has. Like this is so special to me. So I listened to
Yeah.
that, like the CD on repeat for weeks before it came out. So
Yeah.
I respect that Big Casino. That's a cool pick.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Great fucking record.
Oh, I love that. Well, dude, I'm so stoked for the people to hear Ruckus. It's as I said, it's in their hands very shortly. Before we go, is there one song in there that to you means more than anything else you're excited to get out there? Has it been something that's already released as a single, or is there something coming that you're like, this is the song that I think for me means the most off the album?
Yeah. I mean, there is, and it's funny that we're talking about Jimmy right now, because I think the song to me that I'm most excited for people to hear, maybe that I don't even know that it'll be the most, or even one of the more popular songs. Who knows if it is or not? But it's a song on the record called "Dance with Death,"
Okay.
and it was kind of Jimmy Eat World inspired, and it's essentially about my two best friends and I. Driving late at night on this windy road, and we basically we were going a little too fast, and we almost almost crashed, and we didn't, thankfully. But we like had this split second where we were like, oh fuck, like wouldn't that be so crazy if all three of us just died right now? And then that like sparked inspiration for the song, and I just wrote it about like, I don't know, that experience. And it's very much just like an ode almost to my best friends, where I'm just like, yeah, I love these people, and I trust them with my lives. And even if, or I trust them with my life, and I'm sure they trust me with theirs. And like, even if we did die, it's like, fucking, those are
We're in it
my boys.
together.
So it's like we did it together. Yeah. And so that song is like very special to me for that reason. And it sounds like a Jimmy Eat World song. So it's kind of the
Oh
best of
man, I
both.
look forward to hearing that. Hell's yeah.
Hell yeah.
One final question. We've asked every guest this when they come on. It's a divisive one. It does divide people, but you're about to go on stage. You're comfortable. You're dry. You're ready to rock. You're supporting Paramore, and you have to put on cold wet socks or cold wet underwear for the show. What do you
Ooh.
choose and why?
Cold wet socks,
Okay.
because cold wet underwear, it would definitely also get my pants all wet,
Yep.
and then would look like I peed my pants.
That's
And
so true.
I'd rather have really wet shoes that's less noticeable than really wet pants.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm team socks 100%. Johnny,
Yeah.
who sadly could
The
beat
wet
you.
underwear, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, I don't want that. I knew I'd get on with you well. Dude, I'm so excited. Thanks for taking the time to hang out, man.
Yeah, man,
And
appreciate
we
it.
look forward to people getting the album.
Awesome, man. Yeah, me too. Great talking with you, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick, man.
Bye. Have a good one.